Today on our show, we have a great friend, and this is Victoria Reinhold, who is the Family Care Associate with the Alzheimer's Association. Not your first time, obviously.
I think about maybe the third time.
Probably so, yeah, yep. So I'm glad that you were able to make the time today. I know you're very busy, and we've known each other for several years. I've always just appreciated your approach. You're pretty low key, and you serve people in a lot of ways that maybe don't always get noticed. But you've come into a great position, I know, with the Alzheimer's Association, and so we're going to talk about that. But I also think that maybe you could just take a minute and let everybody know, what does a Family Care Associate actually do?
Well, good question. Lots of multitasking.
I'll bet.
One of my favorite things to do is help people. That is my passion, and I'm glad that I have a job where I can reach people that need information and are looking for guidance, and maybe even just an ear to listen.
Sure.
So I talk to people over the phone, generally directed through our helpline, or people that have come into contact with the association through table health fair events or different other avenues where they find they're just looking for some help locally.
Websites or whatever.
So what I do is I basically just let them know that we have an office here in Fresno. I can give people anything from information about what is Alzheimer's to different tips and strategies on communication behavior, maybe the change in relationship if you have an adult child caring for a parent, or you have a spouse. I don't know, and I'm very truthful in saying that I don't know what each situation is entirely about.
Sure.
I can't understand from their point of view because every situation is so different.
Sure.
And people will often say, "Oh, I know you've heard this story a million times," and I am very honest and say, "No, I have not heard your journey, and I have not heard your story."
That's a good point. Yeah.
So what I think is unique that I can do is that I take all of the information a person can give me. So if they're willing to tell me what their day-to-day struggles are, maybe, like I said, some of those relationship changes that are struggles, and just basically take that information and help them to maybe understand a little bit more what's going on with the Alzheimer's disease and how they may be able to change some communication and some strategies. The goal is to make sure that the caregiver feels they're supported and the person with the disease is supported to be the best person that they can living with the disease. And I always say living with the disease because the person that's diagnosed is still the person they were before the disease. And we want to celebrate that person that's still in there.
Sure, yeah. And I know just from, using you guys and others to help with the support, that there really are little tips and ways of really, I think, reducing stress and having positive impact when you're communicating with somebody that doesn't really know how to communicate anymore or as effectively, and overcome some of the frustration and the fear of maybe not doing enough. There's very real hints and tips and helpful ways of doing that I didn't maybe realize as much until it affected me personally with my father. He has Parkinson's, and somebody that we both know, Marie, got plugged in, thank God, to my parents and my mom and family, and was able just to share a lot of really good information that helped us all kind of realize, all right, we're not trained in this area, we've not been down this road before, but there are very good ways of dealing with it, because like you say, it's not like you just ship them off somewhere and you just keep moving. You love them through it, and you do have relationship changes, and understanding what you're actually dealing with, I think, is critical. And education to me about all of that, I think if you're going through it, it's imperative that you become an educated person any way you can. And I think we're going to take a quick break in a minute here, but when we get back, I want to talk about what you came to share, which is a very, very great opportunity for people to learn. It's a Central Valley Alzheimer's Caregiver and Wellness Conference. And so, Michael, if we can, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Truth for Seniors and Victoria Reinhold. We're back with Truth for Seniors. I'm Greg Steen, your host, and just very grateful that you would even take the time to watch and understand what's out there for you. And before I forget, because I already did, I want to just give a shout out and a big thank you to Angelioni Enterprises, the Angels Who Care, wonderful, wonderful caregiving people that have done it for many, many years. We have referred many of our clients to them through the years. Never had complaints, just really, really, they do a solid job of taking them in as family and caring for them. I think in a lot of cases probably better than some of us could even care for our own loved one, and because that's what they do, obviously. So thank you to them for sponsoring Truth for Seniors. So visiting with Vicki Reinhold, who is the Family Care Associate with the Alzheimer's Association, and somebody that I just think is, I think it's okay to call you an expert because you are definitely somebody who has dealt with it. I know you from prior to the Alzheimer's Association, you were hands-on with people that were in need of skilled nursing and skilled therapy. And so you came to talk about the Central Valley Alzheimer's Caregiver and Wellness Conference. So tell us about it.
Yes, well, we talked a little bit about what I do in my role, and this kind of brings it all together and connecting people in one place. So we have different topics that are going to be anything from basics of Alzheimer's, research, advocacy, talk a little bit about another topic for capacity, legal issues, and then huge, going into day-to-day care. And we talked about those tips and strategies. Some are going to be more specific to what happens in each stage of Alzheimer's disease. And then at the end, we're also going to have some role-playing. So actually circumstances and situations of maybe what to do, maybe not what to do, and seeing it live to kind of give people a more interactive experience. I think another one that I didn't mention was home safety too. That's one that is going to be just kind of seeing things from a different view when we're talking about somebody with Alzheimer's or other related dementia that doesn't have that safety filter, that safety decision-making skills.
Sure.
And what to look for to keep as safe as we can. We can't 100% prevent any harm, but we definitely can do some things to make the environment more safe for people with the diagnosis that really do have those safety issues. On top of that, the conference is also going to have several different vendors, community service providers, nonprofit, for-profit, just basically people in the community that provide those essential services. And it's going to give the audience an opportunity to talk to these service providers to see maybe where they fit in, what they would want to consider, and it's all in one place, which is nice. So really
very cool.
Really good day.
Very cool, and it is November 3rd, so put it on your calendar, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it's going to be out at Valley Children's Hospital. That's cool.
A registration fee of $35, but that does cover the whole conference, and it covers breakfast, continental breakfast, and lunch, and then all those things that I talked about.
And you've got a couple special speakers, and so the director of the UCSF Fresno Alzheimer Memory Center, and Claire Day, well, that's Lauren Alving. And then Claire Day, who is Chief Programs Officer with the Alzheimer's Association. So obviously people that are experts and understand what people need. So Now, you mentioned something that, to me, we see a lot, but maybe don't have as much opportunity to help people as we'd like, and that's with the home safety, preparing the environment. I got a call late last night from a client down in Visalia, and his mom had fallen. Well, unbeknownst to me, she's been a client for years. Her husband had Alzheimer's, and she cared for him, and finally he needed skilled nursing, and he got placed. But she has fallen 4 times. They called me on the 4th time last night, and so that's the first time for me that I'd heard of it. And so we started talking, and he says, she's got to have more care. And I thought, well, but what have you done with where she's at now? Right. And I remember going in and talking to them. There was like these really thick throw rugs that, I saw her stumble over once. Yeah, those got to go. Mm-hmm. And, just things like that, like with my dad, the rugs aren't good. And getting the proper, I think that's probably an underutilized benefit there that just maybe the information isn't always out there for people to know. I guess it's true, what you don't know can hurt you.
Yeah, fall risk is a very real risk, and so even having clear pathways, we don't necessarily think about that. But when you do walk through your house, how clear are the pathways? Are you having things that you stumble over?
Sure.
Maybe when you're younger, it's not that big of a deal. You stumble, you get back up, and no harm, no foul. But yes, as we age, our body doesn't move like it used to.
Sure.
And there are balance issues, so we want to just take that out of the equation and just grab bars where you can have them, like I said, clear pathways, and really looking at other things that you might not think of either when you're talking about somebody with decision-making skills that are not like they used to be with Alzheimer's and dementia. You might have something at the bathroom sink that is a chemical that might be confused with mouthwash. So you have to think about maybe those things that could be used in not a safe way. That, again, just kind of thinking in the eyes of, what
Even
do we need to
oven,
put away?
Things like that. You don't want them around you while you're cooking, obviously. I've even had people try to secure their refrigerator, because they don't want them getting into the wrong thing. And sometimes they'll have to refrigerate medication, and there's a risk there. And so that's interesting. So the Alzheimer's Association does provide information about that.
Checklists, yes. And also talking those things through, because one of the things we don't want is to put something in place and it make the situation worse. So, and that sometimes does happen.
Definitely.
So, like you talked about medications, or, if it's in a box or something and the person takes it and then all of a sudden who knows where it is. So we kind of try and think through things and say, okay, what might be a good solution, and making sure that that we're taking control of that, but making the person with Alzheimer's or dementia feel like they are not being treated like a child, or that they're not given opportunity to something maybe they did before. So sometimes it takes a few tries to really come up with solutions when we're talking about sensitive things that could be harmful.
I can imagine. Another thing that you guys do that I think is incredibly helpful is support groups. And tell us about those, because I think they're invaluable personally.
Well, support groups, we actually have 2 brand new at our Fresno office. We have a dementia support group held the 4th Wednesday of every month from 10 to 11:30. And that is by our volunteer, Denise Sachnik. She is a wonderful volunteer, and she leads the support group. She's trained, And basically it is for people that are wanting to come and to share their experience and just bouncing ideas off of other caregivers, because
maybe getting best practices from other people, learning what's working, what's not.
Yeah,
and knowing you're not alone.
Exactly. Coming from somebody who, again, may not be in the exact situation you're in, but understands the point of view better than where you're coming from. And we also have a support group that is solely in Spanish, and that one is the last Monday of the month from 6 to 7:30 in the p.m. So
and these are at no cost?
No cost, and open for everyone. We do encourage registration because these are very small groups, but you can walk in as well.
Okay.
So we just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to come in, share their experience, get that network from other caregivers. And if these don't work out for somebody that's looking for a support group, there are many in our area. So we want to make sure that people are connected. But these are two specific for our Fresno office that are affiliated with the association.
So we're going to take a break, but can you stick around for another minute or two?
Yes.
What I want to do is I want to pick your brain a little bit about, and I'm going to tell a story about why I believe support groups are probably the most beneficial thing a person can do that is living with and or caring for somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia. So we're going to do that and maybe give you a little insight when we come back at Truth for Seniors. So we're back with Truth for Seniors. I'm Greg Steen, and with me is a great friend and somebody that is just doing an awesome job with the Alzheimer's Association, Victoria Reinhold. She is a family care associate, and so we've talked about your upcoming conference and how great that is. And folks, I can't tell you enough that if you really, really want to get educated, I think one of the biggest things that people lack in caring, because they're so concerned about the day-to-day, that they forget and maybe don't always know to some degree how much assistance is available and how much knowledge and information from those that have gone before you and can make your journey a little easier perhaps and lighter. But before the break we were talking about support groups, and I want to just kind of get into that a little bit, because I really believe that that maybe we just haven't done a good enough job of telling people of the value of them. You know, I've spoken at many, I know you've facilitated many, but I try to get all of my clients plugged into support groups. I know that I've learned so much just from attending, and now that I've got, you know, my father with Parkinson's, and I think I've become a better caregiver when I needed to be, because I had more education, understood what I was dealing with. And so can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, the value of a support group, to know that you're not alone.
I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things we mentioned is when we are caregiving, and I can say that because I have actually cared for a family member, not with Alzheimer's or dementia, but when we are in that role of caregiving, we forget to take time for ourselves, because it's all about the person we're caring for. But many times we need to take that time to think about how are we doing for ourselves. And support groups do allow you just to take that time. Even thinking about going to a support group, you have to leave the loved one you're caring for to go to the support. Yes, you do, and you have to make a conscious decision that you're going to do something actually for yourself. And that's important, and people need to understand that it's okay to do that. You know, sometimes I'll talk to, you know, people and support groups, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm talking about myself. I'm going on and on about myself." It's okay to do that. And one of the questions, you know, in support groups is, what are you doing, you know, for yourself? What have you done in the last week to 2 weeks, just something for yourself to make yourself feel better, or to do what what one of my colleagues calls self-care.
Okay.
And that's something that we tend to forget about, but it is very important. We don't want people to be overwhelmed. We don't want people to be burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're more at risk for getting to that point if you don't start doing those little things for yourself.
Sure.
So again, the support groups give you great information, gives you great networking, but it's a good tool just to say, I'm doing this for myself. I'm
There you
going
go.
to this group, and I'm going to make sure that I do make new connections. And many people too will go to the support groups and they find that they make a connection with another person there, and then they find themselves going and maybe having lunch afterwards, or dinner, especially if there's family that are going together.
Sure.
And so again, that just kind of brings everyone together, and again, just making sure that that caregiver is having a different perspective on things, which is important.
I really believe what you're saying is so right and so important, because just to know that, that old saying, oh, you too, it's not just me, but you're going through the same thing, kind of lessens the burden that we feel, because we realize, okay, this is just part of the journey. So if others are doing it, then there must be some help maybe that I can get in understanding how best to deal with it. But I just believe so much in getting as much education as you can, because the more you know, the better you can deal with how you're feeling about having to walk through this, keeping your sanity. Another thing is to be the best caregiver possible. Obviously, everybody wants to do that, I think. But we didn't get that in high school, didn't get that in college, right? And
There's
until,
no roadmap.
yeah, exactly. So until life deals it to you, you probably haven't really got much, understanding in that arena. And so support groups to me are huge. They're a great blessing.
I think people sometimes have maybe not the best view of a support group when they're thinking of it. People can come to support groups and just listen. If they don't feel
Good
comfortable that first time, and they're thinking, I don't trust, I don't know if this is the right fit. It's okay. And I tell people, you're going to go to a support group that fits your need, that's going to fit who you want to connect with. So if you go to a support group and you don't feel connected to the people there, it's okay. You can shop just like you shop for other things. You're going to find the best fit. And if you go and you decide to listen in and you say, you know what, I'm just going to say my name, I'm going to say, why I'm here, and I don't want to share my experiences. I just want to listen. That's okay too. Listen until you feel comfortable, or you feel that something, really touches you, and you feel like, okay, now I can open that can of worms and I can start talking about my experience. But if somebody has that barrier, it's good to know, just go out, see what they're about, and see if you can find a good fit. That, I think, is the key to saying all those positive things that we're getting out of support groups.
You said something earlier. I think that's a great point. I'm glad you shared it. But do you find that sometimes, the parents maybe can't or don't feel like they can share all their pertinent information with their children, adult children? But it's kind of funny how we'll share it with a complete stranger, right? And I know that my mom, in particular, was doing a great job of being Dad's caregiver, but I know in the back of her mind, because she admitted it at one point, what happens if I go first? But she didn't want to discuss that with us, but I know she had discussed it with friends and trying to make sure, that everything was covered. And of course, their planning has been done for years, but just to be reminded and know that sometimes maybe that's an outlet where you can say some things that maybe you just can't say within the family, or you don't feel comfortable for whatever reason. Today, a lot of people's adult kids have moved out of state, definitely out of the city that they reside in, so they're not immediately available, and some of those things you just don't, the young kids, they text everything, but our parents' generation is actually talking, what a concept, and those things have to be done in person. And so I think with a support group, there is that opportunity, and it becomes a safety net for people to be able to share and talk about things that really do concern them that they probably haven't discussed with their kids.
Right, and there are, like I said, there are different options too. There's in-person support groups, there's also telephone support groups, there's webinar support groups. So there are different forms depending on what is most beneficial to the person. Mm-hmm. But I think the very important thing is again, just making the first step. Yeah. And if you don't have the time to go to an in-person support group, then at the very least, try one of the telephone support groups. There you go. Yeah. Or maybe a webinar would be a better fit.
These on the website?
alz.org, and you can basically find one of those that fit in. And again, if you're talking about, some families will go together in support group together. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes a spouse will go to one support group, maybe children will go to another. Maybe it depends on their schedules and how it fits into their day. Everyone's different. So again, you just want to find something that fits for your particular need.
Awesome. Well, this has been very rich. I know that you're a wealth of information, and you have great information, but I do really appreciate the Alzheimer's Association. I've been all over the websites, and there's just scads and scads of great information. I appreciate that, and the more I'm learning about it, the more I realize we got a lot to learn.
And there are plenty of people that will say, if I'm the one reaching out to them, like in a health fair, and I'm telling them what I do, and I ask them, is there anything I can help with, and there's that question or that statement of, I don't know what I need help with. I don't know what to ask for.
Really?
And that's okay too. Again, there's so much out there that just take the first step and know that we are here. We can listen. We can refer to different services and programs, or just simply get you connected.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. And folks, if you've not decided yet, you really need to. That Caregiver and Wellness Conference, I think, is going to be a great event. Definitely worth $35. Definitely worth your time, because the person that you're dealing with is not going to change, as we know. And currently, there's not a cure, although there's great strides being made. But your situation is probably what it is, and so the more information you can get, the more understanding you can get, the better you're going to be as a caregiver, as a spouse, a family member, friend, whatever it is. And I really think that it's worth your time. So we're glad to have you on and share that. So we will be right back and talk real briefly about a couple of upcoming changes that you need to know about regarding the VA aid and attendance benefits. So we'll be right back with Truth for Seniors.